Okay, I want to talk to you about overwhelm and something that is keeping you stuck in it because I think a lot of times as moms, we're in survival mode, right? We're trying to survive life. We've got this 98-hour work week. I know I said that on the last two podcast episodes. Like mom life is equivalent to working 98 hours a week. And when we don't have the support that we need, the this is how we feel when we don't have the support that we need. This is like the way that I can understand it. But like we went through the buffet line, we put everything on our plate, right? Like our eyes are bigger than our stomach situation. We're like so excited. We're putting all the food on our plate and we go to sit down and we look down and we're like, oh my gosh, I cannot eat all of this. And so I want you to think when we get all of this off of our plate, this is like how I explain my program, but like my program Mom Life Mastery, doors are opening soon. But it's like going to your favorite restaurant, the one that puts like the most perfectly portioned food on your plate and it's always delicious and you don't walk away feeling like shit. We wonder like, how did I not find this any sooner? That is Mom Life Mastery. That is what it is for Mom Life. Because let's talk about this one thing that's keeping you in overwhelm, and that is lack of boundaries. Lack of boundaries holds us in overwhelm. And the reason why is because we grow up and we learn how to be people pleasers, whether that be the way that you were raised. I think that naturally, well, it is naturally, but like most of us, we actually learn people pleasing behaviors in childhood. Our parents feed us the bite of peas and we eat it and they clap and they cheer, and we pee on the potty and they clap and they cheer and whatever. And we learn, oh, when I do what I'm supposed to do, mom is happy. And so this is where the people pleasing behaviors begin, right? And if we don't have parents, which I feel like a lot of us didn't have parents during that time to be like, don't be afraid to disappoint me. It was more like, this was my experience, was like, this is how you should live. And these are things that you shouldn't do, because if you do these, like, you're going to be a bad person. You need to be a good girl and keep your body covered. This is like also plays into religion, a lot of religions. My religion, most high demand religions, but for me, it was like, keep your body covered, don't drink, don't smoke, your body is a temple, don't get too many piercings. If you do, then like you're going to be judged and God's going to be angry, and just all these things, right? Well, then I turned into that 18-year-old teen pregnancy statistic, and then I got told it was a sin next to murder, like life, right? All these things. So we have all of these things that play into our experiences. So this was just like my experience, but like you have your own experiences too. So what did you experience that told you how mom life should be and what it should look like and what society is? And if we watch movies, right, the rich mom is always played out to be the villain, and the kind mom is like the mom that's always struggling and whatever. And that weighs heavily on our minds, especially when we start watching shows like that as a child. And so then we just go through life, right? And then we have kids and we start to pour our heart and soul into them. And like, we're supposed to abandon ourselves, like, forget our needs, forget our desires. We got kids to take care of. And so we throw ourselves under the bus so that we can take care of everybody else. And now we're trying to like pour into everybody else's glasses, but we're like the empty pitcher. We're the empty pitcher that has nothing left to give. And our kids are like the cute little cups that are just like waiting to be filled up, and we want to fill them up so bad, but we have nothing. We've nothing. And so we just sit there and we think, gosh, when am I going to get like my time back? When am I going to get my body back? When am I going to get myself back? And where did I go? Like, hello, where did I go? And so the thing is, you only get it back by setting boundaries again. And if you think back on mom guilt, I discussed a little bit last week, you've probably tried to set boundaries and uphold them. And here's what I want to say about setting and upholding boundaries is it does take a lot of energy to first put them in place. Like, it's going to be a little bit emotionally draining because not only are you learning a new behavior pattern, but your kids are also learning a new behavior pattern. But here's where most people get it wrong. Here's where most moms get it wrong, myself included. I was one of these moms, believe me. You try to set this new boundary, you try to uphold it, but then of course, right, your kid is like, but mom, but mom, but mom. Remember how relentless kids are? Kids are completely relentless, and they're going to ask you a million times until you finally change your mind because you're done arguing with them. Well, this is the counterintuitive piece. This is the piece that we screw up in, and it's finally giving in because we are so overwhelmed that we just don't want to fight him anymore, and we just don't want him to ask one more time, and we just don't want to tell him no again. And this is so hard. But so then after 30 minutes of them begging or asking again, we give in. Now we teach our kids, oh, well, if I just ask 50,000 gazillion times, mom will finally say yes. And my daughter, this is funny. This was an eye opener for me. My daughter finally told me that one day. She finally came to me and she asked for something, and I was like, no. And she said, well, I'm just going to keep asking you until you change your mind and say yes. And I was like, holy shit, you have me figured out. Like, you have me figured out. And so now she'll come to me. And when I've got like a firm boundary in place, or I've told her no on something, she'll come and ask and I'll say no. And then she'll come and ask a second time and I'll look at her and I will say, listen, it does not matter how many times you ask me today, my answer is still going to be no. And here is why. So sometimes I'll give her an explanation. Sometimes I won't. But I'm like, we're just not going to play that today. Like, the iPad has been a huge thing. Her and her brother love to play the iPad. And I give my kids about, okay, I'm going to say this, 45 minutes of game screen time a day. I really want it to be 45 minutes of screen time total, but it just has not been that way for the last couple weeks because it is hot as hell outside. We live in the Phoenix area, so it is like over 100, and we've been at like 112 again. Like, it's September. Can we just, this is October when this goes out, so we'll be in the 90s, but this is like in September. And so it's over 100, and you can only go do so much. You can only go get ice cream, so many times, and you can only go to the indoor adventure park. By the way, those are totally not my jam, but you can only do so many things. So anyways, that's me over explaining myself here. But so I will tell her, though, no matter how many times you ask me, my answer is still going to be no. And now that we have done this multiple times, she's like, okay. And she doesn't ask again. And so let's not continue to get stuck in that counterintuitive piece where we as moms are tired. I get it. Remember, it's a 98-hour work week if we're doing it all on our own and we don't have the support in place and we don't have the systems set up that help get some of that load off of our shoulders, right? And so if you're feeling like, yeah, you're working a 98-hour work week and you're wanting to drop some of the overwhelm, boundaries. You need a system for boundaries. That is what I teach in the Mom Life Mastery program. Boundaries is one of the systems that I teach in there, and we go deep. We go deep as far as like the internal piece too. What part of that, like, where did we learn? I know I explained some of it here. We go even deeper in the program, but what piece of you is not allowing you to set the boundary? Because there is a part of you, and we find that, right? And I talked about this last week, but like, I have my breathwork infused systems because, again, all of the work that we're doing here that's practical and tangible on the boundary setting, well, if our body is not on board, remember, you cannot mindset your way into a life you love. So if our body is not on board and our body does not feel regulated around setting the boundaries and it doesn't feel comfortable, we're going to fall out of that pattern. We're going to like use sheer willpower to try to put that boundary in place and to try to implement that. And then we're going to do really good because we've got like just all this determination and all this willpower behind us. And then we get a couple weeks in and we get really tired, or something comes up in life and it happens. And then we fall right back to the old patterns because that's our brain's natural survival pattern. And so what the breathwork infused systems does that we incorporate in throughout this whole program is it helps you identify as the mom who sets and upholds very powerful, healthy boundaries within your family. You're going to learn the dynamic of how the family works together in all of this. And so just thinking about that, like, I want you to think about how that would feel if you were able to just like have your kids ask and you say no, and you're not having to say no 50,000 times. Like, wouldn't that feel incredible? Because I'm here to tell you it does. It does, because my kids have just learned, like, oh, mom is serious. Mom said no, mom is serious. Maybe we'll try to ask one more time. And then that's when I'm just like, you know what? It doesn't matter how many times you ask me, my answer is still going to be no. And then they're like, okay. And then they find the next thing, right? The next thing to ask you about. Sometimes they don't. But when they know that you mean it and you're able to uphold it and you don't have the guilt around it and you feel really good in that decision and you're not having to explain yourself to your kids. We never have to explain ourselves to our kids. But But when you can set and uphold those healthy boundaries, not only are you going to reclaim your life, but you're also teaching your kids the importance of self-respect and self-care. They're going to see a mom who is more confident, who is more balanced. And I say more balanced because I do not believe in perfect balance. More balanced. And you're present. Someone who takes care of herself and in turn is better able to take care of them as a mom. You're going to show up as a better mom. And so if you've been feeling overwhelmed, stretched too thin, or like you're losing yourself in the chaos of life, one step to changing this lies in setting the boundaries. And with the right support systems in place, you can put boundaries in place where you feel more empowered, you feel more fulfilled, and you feel more in control. And so that is what all of this is about. If you want to know more about Mom Life Mastery, I will drop it in this a link in the show notes. Doors are not open currently, but they will be opening soon. So if you want to get on the wait list for that, if you want to read through the sales page, see what it's all about, see what other systems are in there, what other tools you're going to walk away with, because it is good, then click the link below and I will talk to you next time.